Hello and welcome. Today let's do a new poem from your English textbook, The First Flight. The poem is titled The Ball Poem and is written by John Berryman. Let's start the poem by knowing about the poet John Berryman. John Berryman was an American poet and scholar born in Oklahoma on 25th October 1914. He is best known for the Dream Songs, a sequence of 385 poems for which he won the Pulitzer Prize. He also won the National Book Award. He was elected a Fellow of the Academy of American Poets in 1966 and served as a Chancellor from 1968 until his death. The theme of the poem is that life is precious and should not be wasted. Life has to be lived, and life can be lived purposefully and fruitfully only when we stand up and come out of depression. In this poem, a boy loses his ball in the water. He is very upset. Though the ball does not cost too much, it gives him a big shock. He keeps staring at the place where his ball has gone. The poet sees all this, but he does not interfere with the boy's ruminations. He thinks that the loss of the ball will teach the boy a lesson of accepting the loss with tolerance. Coming to the introduction of the poem, the poet John Berryman, through his poem The Ball Poem, has described the reality of life which everyone has to face one day. We may lose many things in life which may be dear to our hearts, and these losses may be irreparable. We should learn to cope up with these losses and the disappointments associated with them. We should learn to stand up against the miseries and sorrows of life. Let's now read and enjoy the poem. The Ball Poem. What is the boy now who has lost his ball? What is he to do? I saw it go, merrily bouncing down the street, and then merrily over. There it is in the water. No use to say, oh, there are other balls. An ultimate shaking grief fixes the boy. As he stands rigid, trembling, staring down all his young days into the harbor where his ball went, I would not intrude on him. A dime another ball is worthless. Now he senses first responsibility. In a world of possessions, people will take balls. Balls will be lost always, little boy, and no one buys a ball back. Money is external. He is learning well behind his desperate eyes. The epistemology of loss, how to stand up, knowing what every man must one day know, and most know many days how to stand up. Now let's read the poem once again and try to understand it in detail. The Ball Poem by John Berryman. What is the boy now who has lost his ball? What is he to do? I saw it go, merrily bouncing down the street, and then merrily over. There it is in the water. So the poet beautifully describes a little boy who has lost his ball. One day, the poet comes across a little boy playing with a ball. The ball bounces out of his control and consequently falls into the nearby water body. The boy becomes sad. So the poet poses a question here about what the boy should do now that he has lost his ball. Here merrily means cheerfully, bouncing, jumping up and down. Moving on, no use to say, oh, there are other balls. An ultimate shaking grief fixes the boy as he stands rigid, trembling, staring down all his young days into the harbor where his ball went. I would not intrude on him. In this stanza, the poet thinks about consoling the boy by telling him that there will be other toys or balls just like the one he has lost. But he soon realizes that this is only a temporary consolation. The poet thinks that money may bring a new ball, but it will not bring the memories and feelings attached to the lost ball. The poet could see a feeling of grief or sadness overcome the boy. He was sad and was trembling with fear. The little boy got so immersed in his sorrow that he kept standing near the harbor for a very long time and kept on looking at his ball in the water. He feels his childhood also has been taken away from him along with the same ball. It is painful for the poet to watch the boy in this sad state. The word meanings: grief meaning sorrow, rigid, fixed. The boy stands fixed or rigid near the harbor. Trembling, shaking. Harbor is a dock or a port. And intrude, I would not intrude on him. Intrude means invade his privacy or to disturb him. In this stanza, the poet thinks about consoling the boy by telling him that there are other balls just like the one he has lost. But he soon realizes that this is only a temporary consolation. The poet thinks that money may bring a new ball, but it will not bring the memories and feelings attached to the lost ball. He could see a feeling of grief or sadness overcome the boy. He was sad. Little boy was sad and was trembling, shaking with fear. The little boy got so immersed in his sorrow that he kept standing near the harbor for a very long time and kept on looking at his ball in the water. He feels as if his childhood was also taken away from him along with the ball. It is very painful for the poet to watch the boy in this sad state. Here the word meanings: grief, as I told you, is sorrow or sadness. The boy is very sad. He is overcome with grief. Rigid, he stands rigid or fixed near the harbor looking at his ball. Trembling, shaking. Harbor is a dock or a port. And intrude, the poet says, I would not intrude on him. Intrude here means to disturb him or invade his privacy. So here we see that the poet feels that it wasn't the right time to intrude or to disturb the boy or to interfere on his solitude. Moving on. A dime, another ball is worthless. Now he senses first responsibility. In a world of possessions, people will take balls. Balls will be lost always, little boy, and no one buys a ball back. Money is external. He is learning well behind his desperate eyes. Now here the poet feels that buying another ball is worthless or meaningless. Money cannot buy everything, and hence money cannot replace the things that we love. Gradually the poet sees a transformation, a change in the little boy. He seems to be coming to the realization that the ball was his responsibility. The truth is that everything we own is our responsibility. More so, nothing we own will be ours forever. People will snatch things away from us, or sometimes we may lose things, but nothing will act as a replacement for the things we once owned. This is a very painful thing for the poet to watch. Here, dime means a 10-cent coin. A dime, another ball is worthless. To buy another ball is worthless. Worthless meaning valueless. Possessions, in a world of possessions, that is ownership. And desperate, behind his desperate eyes, a feeling of hopelessness. Desperate is a feeling of hopelessness. The poem successfully describes how we may feel when we lose something that we love and grow up eventually without it. After reading this poem, we realize that the ball actually stands as a symbol for our family or friends whom we love, and the loss of the ball symbolizes their death. As we grow older, we become more and more accustomed to see our loved ones go away from us, but we gradually learn to deal with such losses and move on in life. Coming to the concluding lines, children, the epistemology of loss, how to stand up, knowing what every man must one day know, and most know many days how to stand up. Here, Epistemology is a branch of philosophy concerned with the theory of knowledge. Here the poet says that we should learn how to cope up with the losses in life. Money is external. We can't buy memories with money. We should learn our responsibility and learn to cope up with the losses in our lives. Most days we must learn to stand up, to cope up with the difficulties in life. Let's now see the key points of the poem, children. A little boy has lost his ball. He can buy many new balls, but he has a very deep emotional attachment and memories associated with the ball, so he regrets over the loss of the ball. The poet is indirectly telling us that we should learn how to cope up with the loss. And money is external. That is, we can't buy memories with money. We all should learn our responsibilities and learn to cope up with the losses in life. The theme of this poem is standing up, coping with the losses in life. The theme of the poem is that life is precious and should not be wasted. Life has to be lived, and life can be lived purposefully and fruitfully only when we stand up and come out of depression. In this poem, a boy loses his ball in the water. He's very upset. Though the ball does not cost too much, it gives him a big shock. He keeps staring at the place where his ball has gone. The poet sees all this, but he does not want to interfere with the boy's ruminations. He thinks that the loss of the ball will teach the boy a lesson of accepting the loss with tolerance. So what we learn is that everyone loses something or the other. Still, they have to accept these losses and fulfill their obligations, their duties. This loss makes the boy learn that gains and losses are a part and parcel of life. Life is short, so enjoy every minute. So we see the poet John Berryman has beautifully described a boy who has lost his ball. He gives a valuable lesson that is full of wisdom, that one must learn to bear the pain associated with loss. Life is short and we should cherish every moment of life. The poet gives a message of hope and encouragement. The boy ultimately has to come out of his depression and learn to stand up to bear the loss. The losses we may experience in life may be the loss of personal possessions, or the death of some near or dear one, or the separation from a beloved one. As long as there is life, everyone has to bear many types of losses. Therefore, we need to learn the way for bearing those losses. Coming to the style of the poem, the poet uses a good combination of tone, imagery, and symbolism. In the beginning, the tone of the poem is depressing. It depicts a scene where a young boy has lost his ball. The loss of the ball symbolizes the loss of innocence and childhood. Like childhood, the lost ball cannot be retrieved. The tone in the end changes, giving an encouraging message that life should be lived as it is and we should move on with the changing times. The poem is in free verse as it suits its tone and content. Coming to the central idea of the poem, the ball poem looks like a simple story of a young boy losing his ball. The boy is upset over the loss. Normally it may seem like an overreaction. Children lose things like their toys and balls quite often. Usually no fuss should be made about such a small thing. But the ball here seems to be symbolizing the poet's childhood. The boy becoming an adult loses his childhood. He was clinging onto his childhood for so long. The poet realizes that it is very difficult to deal with the loss, but it must be done. We should move on as there is no use in wasting precious time and life. Coming to the rhyme scheme of the poem. A rhyme scheme is a pattern of rhymes at the end of each line of a poem or a song. It is usually referred to by using letters to indicate which lines rhyme, all designated with the same letter, a rhyme. In this poem, there is no rhyme scheme followed. The poem is in free verse.